I feel like this world of backup is just old school and
Yep.
commoditized. I think folks most know, like, the real legwork in backup is, one, is it working? Two, does it actually restore? If anybody's had to do a massive, restoration after a ransomware incident, like, it's not easy. It's very time consuming. You have to do some of this stuff at night. Usually people are ticked off if they're truly down. So there's some of the places that we're just looking and thinking that, like, what if we could integrate multiple of these systems together and automate part of this as the remediation process? Like, why do you need so much humans involved in recovering files? Chris, do you want to maybe pull that thread a little bit of what you were thinking on that end? And obviously constraints is going to be related to this.
I mean, we know a lot of the stuff because we have the agent on the endpoint, right? And if by chance, and it does happen, an attacker gets by all of the stuff and ransoms all the files, our agent is there. We already know which files have been ransomed, which haven't, and we can actually figure it out and start to roll back and start to replace those files very quickly. So that is like kind of what we're thinking is like, how can we make this more like actionable, more of an automated thing?
Yeah, and I'm going to avoid getting salty, Chris, but going back to kind of like my issue with security posture management of how are we in 2024 and some of these things just aren't done for us in an automated fashion at a cost that's like affordable to kind of small business, to small enterprise. I just don't know how we're here in 2024. I know you and I have tried working with every major backup provider and asking, like, we know all the files that are ransom. We know all the file extensions. Give us an API to integrate into so we can restore the files automatically. That is not happening. I will tell you, nothing about this world makes me want to build a backup. It's kind of old school, but if you really think back to it, most partners we've talked to are like, I don't need truly full system, right, restoration. I just need my files back. I can restore from a VM or Hyper-V or a gold disk image fairly quick. I just need those files back as soon as possible. And if they haven't completely crippled the operating system, just get me there. Get me the database back. Get me the files that I need to be able to, do scheduling, et cetera. And it just blows my mind that this is not happening already. So I will tell you that if you can't tell, there's a little bit of frustration from Chris and I. And thankfully, we're finally at the size now. Like, if anybody's ever like asked, for a loan for a car, maybe you had to put a down payment on a house. Like, it's really hard to get. Asking for $150 million in venture capital and not losing your company and becoming a private equity company is even harder. So if you can't tell, like, part of our process of raising this Series D, we came to them with this pitch and we're like, this is what's needed. And so we don't know what the acronym will be. We know we're not going to follow the typical BCDR. We actually think some of the mass virtualization, and I'm curious for everybody that's on this webinar live with us, do you get the big bang for the buck when, for instance, a computer goes down and it instantly, restores itself in the cloud that then you can jump in? The more we've talked to partners, the more that they're like, look, for what I'm paying for that extra convenience, I just want my freaking files back. And whether those files live on the endpoint or they're in SharePoint or, OneDrive or whatever you use, Dropbox, et cetera, they just want their files back that were ransomed, that were lost, that were, maybe it's even just destroyed because of something physical happened, right? The hard drive cooked or a smart disk error was ignored for too long. And now that sucker is clicking if it's still an old school and not a solid state drive. Like, these things are things that we're hearing in mass. And so if you can't tell, we don't know, is it cloud backup and recovery? Is it SaaS backup and recovery? Is it endpoint? But I can tell you right now, we're looking. We're looking at technologies to integrate with. We're looking at technologies to buy. But we are honestly considering, do we need to do this? And I appreciate that comment about Rubrik at a price we can afford. This is definitely the direction Huntress is going. We've got the funding to be able to do this. And so if you can't tell, we're not going to do this all at once. When we started this webinar off and told you we're going to give you a peek into the next couple years, this is the same pitch. And if you can't tell, many of these places we've already tested. We've already built some proof of concept code. We're now moving into like earlier stages of research and development or earlier stages of hiring. And I just hope that helps get everybody like fired up that that's the direction we're going.